The Hunter Biden scandals are far more corrupt than you could ever have imagined. Remember the infamous letter signed by 51 former intelligence officials saying the dirtbag's first son's laptop was Russian disinformation? Well, it turns out that the Biden campaign orchestrated the entire thing. Ex-CIA Director Mike Morrells revealing in sworn testimony that Secretary of State, now Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, who was then a senior Biden campaign advisor, led the effort to release that letter. Republican Jim Jordan ripping into the revelation.
That letter became the basis for keeping this information from the American people. And the other thing that was important we learned in that deposition with Mr. Morrell is Mr. Morrell was even trying to direct who the Biden campaign told him who to get this to in the media. It was that coordinated.
Oh, well,
that's the scary part. It was a total political operation. And the most important fact is, Laura, it was false.
Both Joe and Hunter used that letter as proof to dismiss the laptop.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
Certainly, there could be a laptop out there that was stolen from me. There could be that I was hacked. It could be that it was Russian intelligence. It could be that it was stolen from me.
And now there's another damaging development on top of the IRS whistleblower. According to a new report, there is growing frustration in the FBI over why it's taking so long to charge Hunter. Investigators wrapped up the probe a year ago and are just sitting on it. We're also learning that Hunter Biden's attorneys will meet with the DOJ officials next week. Okay, now, you know, I want to start with the 51 intel officers and the fact that they knew, Martha, that this was a political operation that they were involved in. Their credibility was on the line. Both Republicans and Democrats, former heads of the CIA, they didn't care enough about truth and justice. And we found out afterwards that people would have voted differently, that would have changed the election, possibly, probably. And yet, nobody seemed to care. Should we even worry about more?
You know, I went back and read the letter to remind myself what was in it. And it's so superior. It's basically like, we've been around a long time. We understand the Russian government. We know how their minds work. We know that you saw a laptop with a bunch of salacious photos on it and emails about 10 for the big guy. But hey, we know what we're talking about. We're really smart. We're Jim Clapper. We're John Brennan. We're Mike Hayden. We're all of these people who've been around a long time. And going back to what you said, Jeanine, they were asked to do this by the campaign. And Morrell said, you know, we thought it would, quote, help Biden. They go on in this letter to say, you know what, we firmly believe that the American people have to be the ones who control the elections. They have to have the outcome, not a foreign government. We wouldn't want that to happen. Meanwhile, you know, these members of the government are trying to have a huge influence over what happens here. And I'll just finish by saying that in the heart of this letter, they say, look, the Russians are sensing weakness. They don't think that Trump can win. They want him to win, right? And if Biden wins, they want to weaken him. They don't go on to say, these 51 officials who are super smart about Russia, and if that happens, Russia will promptly invade Ukraine. Mm-hmm. So it just smacks of this sort of superior language in this whole letter. You don't believe what you saw, believe what we saw. And now we know that it had a political origin, not a deeply felt origin. It's not like they all called each other and said, you know what, guys, I'm worried about this laptop thing I just saw. We all know this could, you know, this looks like, It came from a political motivation.
And, you know, Lawrence, these guys were the head of CIA, many of them directors, deputies, some of them. They know how to confirm whether or not something is real or not real. All you had to do was look at that laptop and know what was in it, see emails and contact people who might have written those emails. Is the deep state as deep as we thought?
Well, see, that's just the thing, Judge. No one asked to look at the last laptop. I mean, we're under this impression that these people are honest brokers, and they weren't, because it was all about getting their guy in. And everyone knows it now. You know, Judge, As someone that travels around the country and talks with American people on a day-to-day basis, this Republican primary may be over before it even starts, merely based on the issue of fairness. Donald Trump didn't get reelected because people didn't like his tone and tenor. What if it was justified? What if people were after him? What if the election, as it relates to the information that was being disseminated, wasn't fair? We already have polling data that says that people would have changed their vote if they would have known the scandal between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And now we found out that the Intelligence Committee, the people that we have, the community, the people that still have security clearances, didn't even ask about the laptop. And then the Secretary of State was a political operative. I mean, that is some shady business.
Yeah, and that is the intelligence community that caused so much trouble during the Trump administration. But, you know, one of the things that, Geraldo, that I'm concerned about is now that we have this whistleblower who's talking about the grand jury presentation that, as the grand jury's been finished for a year, it's been 5 years since they began the investigation. Now what we get is the whistleblower, as a lawyer, goes to Congress, he says, look, I want to protect my guy. He's a high-level IRS guy. And what does Hunter Biden's lawyer come out and say? He comes out and he says, listen, if anyone, this IRS agent, if anyone's committed a crime, the IRS agent has, it's a felony for an IRS agent to improperly disclose information. Now, the IRS agent hasn't said anything other than send his lawyer out. And this is the America we live in. They want the guy who wants a whistleblower protection to be prosecuted and not Hunter Biden.
I just want to remind everybody that I supported Donald Trump when this was happening. I supported Donald Trump until the day after he lost the election. And insisted that he did not. But I remember thinking when the laptop hit, Judge, that this is too good to be true. This can't be. The president's son is there smoking crack. He's with hookers. He's doing. This has to be. This is Russia. I mean, because it was so. It seemed like a setup. I mean, could a son be that bad? Could the intelligence community not see through this? And when I saw the letter, as Martha recalls, I was, very impressed with it. I was chagrined. I was, oh my goodness.
Yeah, but Geraldo, they weren't. These are people that were around Joe Biden. They knew about his son. The Obama administration even told Joe, I don't think it's a good idea.
I wonder if that's true.
No, exactly.
Of course
there's literally memos from the Obama administration telling Hunter, as well as Joe Biden, you can't be doing this. The White House counsel office told them to knock it off when he was vice president. It's been the quiet secret in Washington how out of control he was.
He'd already been kicked out of the Navy for cocaine use, right?
Yeah.
By that point, so I mean, it wasn't a secret that he was a drug user.
Dirtbag. Yeah.
A drug user.
I got all that, but to think that all of these names, this very impressive list.
So does it tell you there's a deep state?
They're all puffed up.
Is there a deep state?
But to think that all of them got together and said, we're going to go with basement politics.
They admitted it.
Rather than some noble cause.
So is there a deep state?
Is there a deep state?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think that what there is shallow people who do everything for political gain.
And who are at the top of the intelligence community in the United States of America? Greg, I want you to take a listen to this.
So we're supposed to believe that Hunter Biden, in a drunken stupor, dropped off his laptop.
Do you think stuff like that could just have been planted in there and be completely fake?
I do. To me, this is just classic textbook Soviet-Russian tradecraft at work.
For all we know, these emails are made up, or maybe some are real and others are fakes. We don't know.
As I and several of my former colleagues have pointed out publicly, that it does bear the hallmarks of Russian disinformation.
Greg?
Yeah, I mean, the claim in the letter is a hoax. It's a hoax. This was a deep state Smollett. And we talk about how this happened. There's a former CIA director taking orders from the Biden campaign to gather up intel agents to create a hoax, right? And then the story almost always ends there, but we never go further. That letter had to go somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. It was an exclusive for Natasha Bertrand, is that her name, at Politico? Why her? Like, how did she get the letter? How deep was she involved? Because this is important. She was the same reporter who was behind the dossier She pushed that thing so hard. She made it appear that there were all these outlets. I don't know if you guys remember this about the dossier. It was Business Insider, it was The Atlantic, it was Politico, but she was the sole author. But it sounded like this was going around and around and around, and the result is not necessarily corroborating evidence, because there wasn't any. She got a job at MSNBC. They rewarded her, despite the fact that she was wrong on everything. And you think, well, maybe you learn a lesson from that. But then this laptop hoax comes up, and they feed it to her. And why? Because she was masterful at the Russian dossier hoax. So that's why she got rewarded. So it should have set off the alarms when she was behind that letter. When she got that letter first, everybody in journalism said, wait a second, that's the same person that pushed this dossier. She's wholly unreliable. And, oh, wait a second, that's why she has it. That's why she has it. So, and then yet, they all played along. And to my knowledge, she still has a job.
Of course
She's known as a national security reporter. How is that even possible? The two biggest lies of the last 3 years, she pushed.
You know, the sad part about all of this is that it was interference in a presidential election.
Should be illegal.
Should have believed the New York Post.
It is a crime.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.